Verzeo, your one-stop solution to everything learning. Verzeo, your one-stop solution.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are doing good. It's Ajay Villav here. Welcome to today's session, and it's gonna be on introduction to data engineering roadmap. I believe you have received a mail or else information over social media handles. Yeah, we would be going ahead with this particular webinar, and the speaker gonna be Shashank Mishra, and I would like to introduce him. Mr. Shashank Mishra is data engineer 3 at Amazon, and he has a good experience in this particular field and worked on several projects, had guided a lot of students, and he does run his own YouTube channel also. I would really glad to have him here and heartily welcoming Mr. Shashank Mishra. Guys, make use of this particular podcast and get useful of all the important things that you are looking for, and I think he would be the best person to provide you a proper guidance or else to make you know what exactly that you are looking for in terms of career guidance or in terms of data engineering platforms, or else which company to choose or what mode and everything. Let's keep this session as interactive as possible. You have your chat section available in YouTube. You can ping your questions relevant to the topic or else whatever the things that you want to know about, and later on we'll take your questions at the end for 10 or 15 minutes. Let's not waste further time, and I would be handing it over to Shashank. Yep, it's all yours. You can take it further, Shashank.
Okay, thank you so much, Ajay. Thanks for the introduction, and thank you so much. This is the only job profile available, right? And you can only make a good career into it, and this is the only high-paying job profile. And that's a complete myth. Honestly telling you, that's a complete myth. There is nothing like that. Data scientists are making good money only, and there is no recruitment of any other job profiles. And data science is the only hottest job profile. So the fact is, like, data engineering is something which has grown a lot, and is really you can say it has basically got a really good grip on the market, and even across the data science, AIML related fields as well. So as what we actually do as a data engineer, okay, so I think the next paragraph which I will explain, that will clarify the difference between the data engineers, data scientists, machine learning engineers, and data analysts, business analyst role and responsibility. An example, I will explain it with the help of example. So let's take an example of Amazon e-commerce platform itself, which we know being used by millions of users across the globe, and on their platform, even in a single second or even a minute, there are billions of transactions are happening in a real time, right? So those kind of transactions are happening. That means the e-commerce platform itself containing your details, right? When you book an order, they will have your details, right? They will have the order details, what you have purchased and everything. You will get the notification for your order tracking and everything. This is the one segment, right? So that means the Amazon e-commerce platform has everything about the transactions which are happening on their platform, and they might be keeping it to somewhere. Nowadays, we know, like, as a storage part, we have distributed file systems, right? Let's say the HDFS, or if we talk about the cloud providers, so we have AWS S3, Azure Blob, right? So these kind of distributed file system. Else we have transactional databases, right? Databases where we can keep the data, like MySQL, Postgres. But the transactional databases are something which are not horizontally scalable. Horizontally scalable in case of there is a huge spike, and whenever you need to store a enormous amount of data, then transactional databases are something which won't be a good fit for it. Okay, they are mostly being used as an active database for the transactional perspective. Next is the NoSQL databases. So NoSQL databases is something which are actually meant for the analytical queries, right? Whatever information we generate, or whatever uh, output we generate in the form of the transform data, those that will be actually move into the downstream systems, which will be the most secure database, and like people will start querying it. Okay, so now millions of transactions were happening. Say this is a Diwali sale, so obviously traffic will be high, and even a second, not only millions, probably billions of transactions will be happening. Okay, so let's say within the Amazon, there will be different teams as well. Let's say a team which is handling the payment section, the entire payment vertical. There could be a team which is handling the entire product related vertical. There could be a team which is handling entire, let's say, mobile recharges, flight booking vertical. Okay, so they will come to you, right? The data engineering team, that Shashank, we actually want to do some analysis on this Diwali sale data which happened for the last week or even last month, 6 months, whatever data they want, right? They will come to us with this problem statement, and as a data engineer, we got the requirement from that we need to bring that raw data, because Amazon e-commerce platform was capturing it somewhere. Now, from some source X, right, this data engineering team will start pulling the data, and that data is growing very, very fast. That is not a megabyte or like kilobyte kind of file. It will be in GBs, it will be in TBs, it will be in petabytes. Okay, so this data engineering team will do the actual engineering stuff, right? That's why data engineering profile is something which is really, really close and having a very, you can say, having a good intersection with the software engineering profiles as well, because here you need to code as well, right? Here you need to design these scalable systems as well. You have to be good with computer science fundamentals as well. Everything, right? You will be doing these kind of stuff. So more engineering stuff is involved here, right? So as a data engineer, we will be writing those scalable, note down these points, like we'll be writing the scalable optimized data pipelines, all what we can say the scalable optimized ETL pipelines, extraction, transform and load. So because the business team came to us, they have given us all the requirements. Now our responsibility is to write that scalable pipeline in such a way so that it is scalable, means every point, any point of time, it is able to handle massive amount of data which is coming from source X. It can be in the batch form, it can be in the real time form, right? So we are just picking that data from source X, and on the fly we are applying some transformation, and that transformation, this information we will be getting from the business team itself, right? They can say that Shashank, we need to do like aggregation of the total sale for the last month for different products, different categories, different reason wise, right? In particular state, how much sales was done, something, these kind of matrices you need to calculate, and that's why you need to apply those transformation on the fly. And once that information is available, now you need to dump it into the downstream system, which is actually the load part. So now you can see the role is really, really crucial for the data engineers. You will be working as a frontliner. I keep on saying to everyone who asks me what is the role of data engineer, I say that data engineers are something which plays a very, very major role in any of the company who is working on the big data related solution, because you are the origin of everything. Everything else will be dependent on you. Now that was the role and responsibility of data engineer, and quickly I will explain data science and data analyst part. So data science and ML engineers, now we have prepared the transform data for them, which is clean, which is transformed, well aggregated, pure matrices, right? Now the actual role and responsibility of ML engineers and data scientists will start, because they are someone who will be working on complex problems, and those problems are complex, like building those kind of mathematical models, right, with perfect accuracy, with good fit models. They need to actually write it where mathematical stuff will be involved, statistics will be involved, probability will be involved, machine learning related typical algorithms will be involved, right? So they will be doing it, and for that purpose, they cannot deal with the garbage data. They cannot deal with actually multiple data sets, because those machine learning algorithms, it's still very heavy computing algorithm. So at the computation time, if they are doing so many of joins with different raw data sets, then doing the cleanup and preparing some meaningful matrices for them, and then trying to build their models, definitely that is not going to work in the right way. So here the role and responsibility of the data scientist. Now, data analysts, business analysts are those persons who I don't call them a pure technical, right? Because they don't need to worry about what is happening on the front side, right? The core engineering stuff. They are someone who is also the strongest pillar of this the entire the big data ecosystem. They will be closely working with the business units, right? Getting all the requirements and also passing it to the data engineering teams and having a bi-directional communication with each other. So once that transform data is available and it is maintained in the downstream system, that moment these guys will actually deliver the information in the, you can say, human readable formats. Human readable formats in mean, you can say, the dashboarding. So these guys will be someone who will prepare those fancy dashboards with meaningful information, because at the end customers wants that. They don't want that entire data to be present in the SQL or in the Excel file, and then they are again trying to get some information. They are creating their own dashboards. No, it will be their responsibility, right? So communicate with the business, understand the business well, and come up with these kind of things. So this was the overall, I think, whatever explanation I have given for these different job profiles, at least now it would be clear who does what. Okay, and now it's actual time to talk about the data engineering roadmap here. So I will share my screen, okay, and one by one I will talk about what all important things in the data engineering space, right? And anybody can follow it, right? The target audience for this roadmap is anyone, right, who is even starting with the data engineering, who is completely noob and don't even know anything about the data engineering, or let's say you are transitioning from different job profile to data engineering, or even if you are experienced, you can just have a look at it. If something is missing, you can put it in the comment section itself. Okay, so let me share my screen and let me know if it is visible in the comment section. You can let me know if my screen is visible or not. Is my screen visible, everyone?
Yes, Shashank, it is visible.
All right,
And
so
Shashank, one more thing, guys, I would like to mention that if anyone wants to ask questions or something, you can just raise your hand, or else you can just let us know in the chat. We'll take your chats and we'll present it to the mentor after 5 or 10 minutes. You can get your resolution for that. Great. Okay, over to you,
all right.
Shashank.
Great. Yeah. So here in this talk, right, I have mentioned everything from the beginning, from the scratch. Okay. So I'll talk about each and every section one by one, and where it will be important and why you are actually supposed to learn these topics or get a good grip as a skill set. So first thing will be programming language, right? This is the most common asked question, right? If somebody wants to start in data engineering, that what kind of language should I pick, right? And
Recording in progress.
what kind of language we should choose, and what is really popular in the big data space. Okay, so in data engineering, these languages are the important one, really important one: Python, Scala, and Java, right? So even if you know any of these languages, right, you are in the right direction for the data engineering, because majorly whatever pipelines we try to build or whatever we are doing in data engineering, that is mostly by using these three languages. And among these three, Python is something which is really popular, and there are finite reasons for that, like easy to learn as well, and strong support for the data analysis libraries, and most adaptable, right, by even partial technical candidates as well, like in the data analyst, business analyst profiles. So that's why you should actually focus in these programming languages, learn its basics, how to code into it, looping structures, if else condition, how to create functions, and the whatever basics are there in any of the programming language. Next is the operating system understanding and basic shell scripting. So if any of you is from the software background, or let's say even if you can recall your college days where you were studying subjects like operating system, so there mostly you would have worked on the CLI based system, where everything you need to type in the form of the command, because there is no GUI kind of interface available. You cannot just simply do a copy paste, right? Just right click, copy paste. even if you want to do a copy, you need to write a command for it. If you want to change something, right? So that is the actual need, because even when we work with a larger scale infrastructure like 100 or 200 nodes in a cluster, right? So those nodes are nothing, basically commodity hardwares which will be having their CPU, memory, RAM, everything, and those will be kind of Linux Unix based system. So you have to be really good at these Linux kind of commands, how to operate on Linux machine, because sometimes you might be receiving the data which you need to process on these servers as well, right? Not you are not pulling the data from the databases or some distributed file systems, because these servers can be also used in order to put these smaller data files, right? And you need to write the entire automated pipeline which is picking data from these servers and doing the computation part. So that's why operating system and basic shell scripting will help you to automate these kind of stuff. So you have to be good at it as well. Now next is also this one is also one of the often asked question, like data structures and algorithm, right? Do data engineers need to study this DSA part, how much it is important, what would be the level of coding question in the interviews and everything. So based on my interview experiences so far, and even I would say this is the good part in the data engineering job profile, that uh, we don't even much care about your pro coding level skills, right? You don't need to be a like pro competitive programmer, not something like that, right? You, if you are just good and decent with your programming fundamentals and implementation of basic and different data structures and algorithms, that means you are good to go. That's why even I have mentioned average level, no hard level type of questions I have ever faced in these interviews. So easy questions, easy, medium, and average or medium kind of questions you will get. So these will be the typical topics which I have even mentioned. Questions will be around that: arrays, string, linked list, stack, queues, tree basics, right? Questions related to their traversal, in order, pre-order, post-order, or some pet questions like finding the diameter, finding the total count of leaf nodes and something like that. And similarly in the graphs, right? Graph basics you need to cover: leaf traversal, BFS, DFS, concepts of cyclic graphs, right? Acyclic graphs, and typical algorithms, right? Don't You don't need to jump on its code part, but at least have an understanding where to use the Kruskal's algorithm, Prim's algorithm, Dijkstra, and how they actually work. And dynamic programming is something which will be important, but also again not the hard level of questions, but easy, medium, and medium kind of questions. I have actually faced a couple of coding questions in the data engineering interviews related to the dynamic programming, and again searching, sorting kind of algorithms you need to cover there. Now next is the core basics of DBMS, because again data engineering, this is something like databases will be your part of day-to-day activities. Sometimes you will be pulling the data from databases, sometimes you will be storing the transform data into the databases. So all different aspects of databases you should definitely cover, because it will help you to design your database or tables in an optimized way, so that query is faster, and somebody is running a heavy analytical query, so runtime is faster. So that can be done if you know all the basics concepts of the typical DBMS things, right? So like DDL, DCL commands, DML means how to create a table, the control languages like the access on a table, revoking the access, data manipulation like inserting the records, updating it, alteration command, and integrity constraint, how to apply types of data schemas like logical schema, physical schema, and basic operations like filtration, where clause, order by, okay, applying in conditions, these kind of basic operations. Acid properties is something you should definitely know, because until unless you are not aware with the technical terminologies of the DBMS, then let's say if somebody gives you option with 2 3 databases, let's say mix of RDBMS and NoSQL databases, and if you don't know these technical terminologies, you won't be able to decide that which database is a good fit for my use case, because it's not necessary that every data can be used for every purpose. Okay, so that is why ACID properties, transactions, how to maintain the concurrency control, deadlocking, indexing, hashing, normalization forms, views, stored procedures, ER diagrams. So these are the some typical DBMS concepts which will help in your interviews as well, in your design rounds as well, and also in your day-to-day data engineering activities. So Ajay, I'll take a pause for a second. Like, if we have any question, you want me to move?
Okay, let's go through the audience chat. Okay, I don't think there is a questions from the audience, but I would like to ask, what to say? No, I think we can proceed, Shashank.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so far that was about the DBMS. Now SQL. So SQL is something which is really important for not only the data engineering, but it will have a very huge advantage in your day-to-day activities plus in your interview. So let me tell you the fact: if you appear for a data engineering interview or even a data science or ML engineer, data analyst, business analyst, SQL will be having 35% to 40% of weightage in your interviews. So if you are ignoring it, probably you are ignoring a very big section of your interviews, which can help you to crack it. Okay, so don't ignore it at all. If you think you are weak in SQL writing, you cannot create a logic, you cannot write a decent query. Start working on it, because this is very much important. So here SQL, like, you need to know the typical transactional databases, all type of joins, how to write the nested queries, sub queries, and performing the group by operation with some complex joins as well, and some complex nested queries, sub queries, and then use of case when statement, which actually acts like a if else in the SQL. So how to use the case when statement along with the group bys, right? There are beautiful use cases for this one. And last but not the least, and very much important, the window functions, right? Ranking, dense ranking, over clause, partition by, order by, right? So window function is something which is, I would say, the backbone of analytical SQL part. So make sure you have a good grip on it, because in the interviews, at least the interviewer will ask at least one or two questions or SQL queries related to the window functions. So that was about the SQL part. Now once that part is done, you should move on to the basic terminologies, or getting the understanding of basic terminologies in the big data. So why I'm telling the basic terminologies, because whenever you start with something new or anything like that, you directly don't jump onto the medium or advanced part, right? First you start with the basic fundamentals or basic terminologies of it. So if somebody wants to understand the big data, first that person needs to start with these things, right? What is big data? What are 5 P's of big data? What is distributed computation, distributed storage, vertical versus horizontal scaling? What is commodity hardware? What is cluster? So, and even in the big data, mostly you will be dealing with these kind of file formats, right? File formats means the ways or the formats which we can use to store the file, because here each file format has its own advantages and disadvantages. So you should also know these factors as well, like which kind of file format can be a good fit for use case, and also understanding the different types of data. Sometimes you might be working on structured data like row columnar format. Sometimes we might be working on unstructured data and semi-structured data like JSON, XML. Okay, so these are the some very important and very basic terminologies in big data. So you need to cover this part as well. Now data exploration libraries. So in the beginning, as even I said, the Python part, right, which is something heavily used in the market, right, for the data engineering, data science, and the data analyst part. And even as a data engineer, mostly I have worked on the Python as well. I have worked with Python, I have worked with Java and Scala as well, but not that extensively. But Python, I guess, I have used in each of my company and most of my projects. So these two libraries are actually very much important, right? First, if you are comfortable with Python programming, now you know all the basics of it. Then at the end, you need to play around the data. So you should know how you can extract the data from different sources, and how you can prepare it in the form of data frames like row columnar format, how to do the different operations using the data frame, data structure kind of thing, right? So pandas and numpy, these are two very strong and very important libraries, at least from the Python perspective. So make sure you go through with these as well and do some hands-on as well. Now, data warehousing concept, this is also one of the very important thing in your day-to-day activities, then from your interview perspective as well, because mostly in the design round, right, the interviewers will ask question around it, like design a data warehouse or design a data model for something. I will give you the examples as well. So in the data warehousing, like you need to cover these typical concepts like what is OLAP, OLTP, what is the dimension tables, what is the fact table, what is star schema, snowflake schema, warehouse design questions, right? Designing questions, you need to practice a lot of warehouse designing questions as well. Many more topics like the slowly changing dimensions and the normalization, denormalization concepts within the data warehousing and data modeling itself. So I do remember one of my interviews where interviewer simply asked that, Shashank, now you are actually vaccinated and you might have used the vaccination surveys, right, provided by Arogya Setu or even created portals. So he actually asked me to design the data warehouse for the vaccination booking website. So when they ask these type of questions, so their objective is basically to understand your thought process as well, how well you understand the problem, right, and how well you understand the typical fundamentals of data warehousing, because data warehousing is something which has to follow some standards. It's not like that randomly you are creating some tables without having any idea and you are just using it randomly. That can even cause or that can even impact your data analysis, because those queries might take time and that table is itself not containing the meaningful attributes which you might want for the data analysis, right? So data warehousing design has its own standards, and that is why it is very important. So similarly, other questions like design a data warehouse for ride hailing service like Uber, Lyft, Ola, and for e-commerce, design a warehouse of e-commerce platform like Flipkart, Walmart, and many other type of design questions, right? So that's why I mentioned we need to practice the warehouse designing questions as well. Now moving to the big data frameworks. So initially we talked about the big data basic terminologies. Now once you are comfortable with the big data terminologies, it's actually time to move into the actual hands-on part or the practical experience with the big data frameworks, like how to write a distributed computation application, how to store our data in distributed file storage systems like HDFS and AWS S3 or something like that. So here the top three frameworks, right, which I have written down here, this is something which is actually required by most of the companies, be it the service-based startups or any tech giant or any good product-based companies. They would be expecting it from you, right? Like you should have a good understanding of Apache Hadoop, how it actually works, right? What are different components of it, HDFS, MapReduce, Yarn. That's why even I have written architecture understanding is most important, because they can put some different questions, realistic problem statements in front of you, that how would you achieve the high availability, and if we increase the number of blocks or if we increase the block size in the Hadoop configuration, what will be the impact. So you should actually know its architecture perspective, which is really important. Now Apache Hive, which is also being used very extensively for batch data processing, right, in different companies. So this is basically a kind of framework built on top of Hadoop, right? Because if somebody wants to use the Hadoop, then she needs to write the typical MapReduce code, which is also bit tough, as in you can say not everybody will have that kind of expertise on Java or that kind of object-oriented programming, so that they can write the complex MapReduce program. So they came up with this framework where it will accept your logic in the form of SQL, right? And it will convert your SQL query in the MapReduce code itself. So you just need to focus on the logic, not the coding part. So the things you need to cover in Hive, like how to load from the different data files, internal tables, external tables, querying table data which is stored in HDFS, like because Hive can read the data from different sources as well, partitioning, bucketing concepts, map side joins, right, sorted merge join, how to write user defined functions in Hive, and what is serialization, deserialization in Hive, right? So these are something which is really important. And next, which is a very much important, at least for the data engineer part, understanding of Apache Spark and even having a good hands-on Apache Spark. So in the Apache Spark, Spark core is there. You need to know about it, how to work with the Spark libraries and its methods, and how to use the Spark SQL. And let's say you have a use case of doing the real-time data streaming and near real-time data streaming, then you need to know how to use the Spark streaming, how to use the Spark streaming for that purpose, right? Then we have Apache Scoop as well. We have Apache Nippy, we have Apache Flume, we have Apache Flink as well, and many other good open source frameworks available in the market for the batch processing and for the real-time data processing. Now, 10th is the workflow managers, you can
Shashank,
say. Yep.
sorry to disturb. There is a question from a student. Uh, it is from Swagat Mishra, I guess. Can I sell my ML model online? If yes, then how? Is it relevant?
What he's saying, Ken?
Can I sell my ML model, machine learning model online? If yes, then how?
No, I don't think so. There is any such platform available right now where you are just selling your models or something. You can probably create your own GitHub repository, and you can put things there. And if you get a good exposure, probably then later point of time you can ask for the sponsorship if you are doing a good work in this data science domain and providing lots of like amazing data models and data sets for the practice and everything. Then people will be willing to pay for it, and they will be able to sponsor your GitHub. Okay, so that's how you can do it. And particularly, I don't know anything at this moment which is dedicatedly working in this space, like buying the data models or ML models from different folks and selling it for the different prices.
Okay, great. I believe that answers Shweta, and yep, I think we'll get back.
Okay. Now talking about the workflow managers and dependency management. So this is something like just think from that perspective. Let's say you have created your own jobs, right? Now you want to automate it. So you will try to trigger it at some specific point of time, right? And let's assume a use case. There are three jobs you have created: job A, job B, and job C, and you want to trigger your job C once job A and job B is actually completed. So that means you need to create a kind of tree or hierarchical dependencies with these components, and that's where these workflow managers, right, actually come into the picture, like Apache Airflow and the Azkaban. These are the two very popular in this space, right, as a workflow manager or orchestration tools. Now in the NoSQL databases, so for the NoSQL databases, and not only just NoSQL, like for any kind of tech framework you study, just focus on three keywords, like when to use, why to use, where to use. And if you know these things, you will be able to clear any of your design round. Because uh, again, I will say that not every tech framework or any kind of, let's say, framework you have used previously, that would be a good fit for your current use case, right? So whenever you go with, because even in the NoSQL database, there are multiple categories, right? Like the columnar, key value, document base, and many other categories within the NoSQL database. So you should actually know, right, when to use, why to use, where to use. So the very popular one under the NoSQL databases and widely used as well. So HBase is there, Cassandra is there, Elasticsearch is there, MongoDB is there, and other NoSQL databases as well, provided by different cloud providers as well, like AWS, Azure, and GCP. Now messaging queues, right? Messaging queues, these will actually help you while creating the real-time data pipelines, because whenever there will a need of doing something in the real time, you need to hold the matches for some time so that your consumers can consume it. And that's why we need some messaging kind of system in between. So the most widely used is the Apache Kafka, but we have other messaging queues as well, like RabbitMQ. Okay, that can be also used, but oftenly used will be the Apache Kafka, right? In most of the projects you will find that Apache Kafka is being used. Now dashboarding tools, right? This is a good to have a skill set for the data engineers, right? Sometimes you might need this kind of uh, use case, right, where you need to do the dashboarding. And dashboarding as in, right, let's say you have created your entire data pipeline, there will be multiple things, right? You will have your infrastructure which you want to monitor, like continuously monitoring the system health, right? So that for that purpose you will create a dashboard, so that continuously you are monitoring the logs of your system, and if there is any kind of like activity which you think it can crash the system, you can just find it from the dashboard itself which you have prepared. So that is also very important, and sometimes for the business purpose understandings as well, you should know how to work with the dashboards. And these two dashboarding tools are really popular in the market. So if anyone is a data analyst, business analyst, the dashboarding is something which will be a must to have skill set for them. So Tableau, Power BI, Grafana, Kibana, right? These are the some popular dashboarding tools. Now last but not the least, so here I have covered the big data services which are available in the cloud, and specifically AWS. I could have covered for I could have covered for the Azure and for GCP as well, but based on my experience and based on the current market standard, I have seen the cap of AWS is still very high. Like multiple companies are using AWS. Azure GCP is also moving fast in the tech space, right? Multiple companies are using that one as well. But here I have mentioned the list of if let's say you are someone a data engineer and you get a chance to work on AWS, then uh, frequently you will be using these AWS services on daily basis for working different kind of data pipelines, right? So first is on-demand machines. Let's say you want some on-demand machines or servers, you want it, right? So for that we have AWS EC2, which is one of the cloud service available. And for the access grant, right? Let's say this service want to access another service, and you want to apply some kind of restrictions, right? That can be done with the help of IAM service and IAM roles. For storing the secrets, right? Let's say I want to use some database, and database will have its username and password, so I cannot hard code it in my code base, right? I need to store it somewhere in the locker, and within the code during the runtime I will bring these credentials from that lock itself. Okay, for that we have AWS secret manager. And as I was talking about distributed file system like the HDFS or something, in we have AWS S3. And transactional database services, like we have AWS RDS, which is completely similar to the MySQL, which was open source, right? AWS Athena, this is also a database service, but it is a serverless, right? So here you can just directly query the data from the S3. You don't need to store the data in the database itself, right? So that's how you can query it. So Athena is also there and quite scalable. And AWS Redshift, I shouldn't have put it in the transactional database. That's why I have mentioned like data warehousing, because this is something which is massively scalable, right? And very good fit for the heavy analytical queries, and acts like a data warehousing service, the AWS Redshift. And for the example, NoSQL database, we have AWS Dynamo. That is a kind of NoSQL database available with AWS. And serverless services like AWS Lambda and ETL related services, where you will be writing your Spark code and processing the data, reading it from somewhere, then applying transformation, then dumping it to somewhere. So we have AWS Glue. And now once your jobs are ready, you want to schedule it something, right, on some specific timestamp, or even based on some events, right? So we have AWS CloudWatch. And similar to the AWS Glue, we have AWS EMR. It is not that managed, right? Means you can just use a EMR cluster, and there still you need to work on the server itself, like whatever script you will be writing, you need to code it there, and then you can execute. And messaging queues, right? Like we have AWS SNS, AWS SQS, and for real-time data streaming, right? We have a service which is AWS Kinesis, right? So these are the typical AWS services which you need to explore in the big data space, and I think also I have covered the entire thing which I included in the data engineering roadmap. So I think this one was a quite detailed one, right? I think it is even took close to 25 minutes, right, to explain, because I know there is a lots of thing needs to be covered. So don't worry about it. That the roadmap I have prepared, that might look quite lengthy to you, but trust me, you can manage two, three things in parallel, right? But if you really want to become a good data engineer, I must say these are something which you should definitely cover. If you are missing a couple of things from here, that can cause you, or that won't even help you to crack some of the good companies, and also you will feel that you are missing something in your day-to-day job role, right? You won't be finding particular use case that exciting if you are not covering some of the skill sets which I have mentioned here.
Okay, Shashank, I think that was a detailed description. I have a question again from Swagat Mishra. What she asks is, how can I work on maintenance and or modification of data models working in real time?
So I think again I would say, see, I clearly mentioned the differences, right, among the job profiles.
Yes.
So probably I'm not a right person to ask this question, right? How uh, can you just tune your models in the real time? Because I personally didn't work in the data science space or the ML engineering, right? So if I haven't worked on it, uh, I would say that I'm not the right person to answer your questions. Probably you can find someone who is closely working in the data science. But since I have worked with them closely, so at least I know what are their job responsibilities and what is mine. So I'm in the data engineering space.
Okay, got it. I believe, Swagat, I think you can check out our other podcast also when it comes to machine learning or something. I think they might be able to give you a proper answer that you're looking for. Currently, we'll stick on to the data engineering related things which might be useful for you. Guys,
Because
if you have, yeah,
in the beginning, I explained about the data engineering. That was my main purpose, right? To start with the differences. Else,
yes.
I could have started with the roadmap and everything. So I would be more happy if you try to clarify your doubts and questions related to data engineering, because I have explained my job role and responsibility and what you actually need to learn in data engineering.
Okay. So, guys, you can come up with the questions related to that. Till that time, I think we'll take few of the important questions that we have sourced from what do you say, the other audience or else from the polls. Okay. So, Shashank, I would like to ask few of that. Uh, so, what every data engineer should know about? Like, you can just brief me, or you can just brush me over the things that would work.
So yeah, so whatever I've mentioned in the roadmap, obviously that is extensive, but five important things I would definitely point out, right? What if let's say you are an entry level fresher and moving into the data engineering space, or even somebody who's experienced but worked in a different job profile and want to move in data engineering. So first, as I said, programming will be the most important thing, right? You cannot get away from the programming side if you move into the data engineering. Second is the SQL plus databases, right? Even I mentioned 40% weightage, that not only the data engineering but data scientist role, ML engineer role, data analyst, business analyst. So understanding of SQL databases plus NoSQL databases, right? That would be the important thing. Third, the basic terminologies of the big data, and whatever I mentioned, the typical frameworks. At least three you need to cover: Hadoop, Spark, and Hive, and all the basic terminologies in the big data. Fourth, the very much important is something that is, I was talking about the data warehousing and how to design a typical data model. Model as in, uh, what kind of fact tables I will be using, what kind of data, what kind of dimension tables will be there, and how those fact and dimension will be connected with each other, the dependencies on each other, the foreign key relationship with each other, right? So that is the fourth thing. And fifth, you can say, either you can consider the cloud part. Why I'm saying the cloud part? Because it is being used by the multiple companies, and if you have that one in your resume and in your profile, shortlisting will become more and more easy for you, and you will get a good job opportunities, good interview calls, and also you will get some cutting edge, right? While just getting shortlisted for the interviews, you will stand out from the crowd. So I would recommend that one. Even in your current organization, you are not getting a chance to explore something on the cloud, but these cloud providers are also providing some free accounts where you can use the limited services, but still it will be a great help if you can explore it by your own.
Okay, great answer, Shashank. I believe that answers most of the viewers' minimal idea on what kind of skills or tools that they need to work on. So, which brings to the next question that you have already answered half of it, that is the technical skills. But when it comes to the soft skills, right? Most of the viewers or whenever they are attending the interviews, so they get confused or else they get hesitated how to showcase themselves. So, any tips or tricks for them?
Yeah. So there are three important tips, right, which I have observed over the period of time. So first thing, right, being into the data space, right, you cannot avoid yourself to stay away from the data domain understanding, right? So data domain, as in there is a fintech space, there is a healthcare, right? There is a telecom, there is a media and entertainment. So every domain has its own structure of data, and it will have its own matrices. So whenever you are working on big data related projects, make sure you are also getting good understanding of data itself and also the business problems. It shouldn't be like that the team reached out to you, they given you the problem statement, you created the pipeline, and your job is done. That means you are learning data engineering just 50%, right? Understanding of data is also very very important. In that way you can counter the questions from the business, because business team can come with a very vague requirements as well, and you are not supposed to cater every problem. You need to answer question. Okay, if you need this particular column, can you justify where you are using it and what is the purpose, right? And let's say they came with the problem, so you should also understand how sales order data like works together, right? What will be the connectivities with each other, and how or what kind of matrices you can even calculate. Sometimes in the interviews these kind of questions will be very very straightforward, at least on the interviews where you will be facing your hiring managers or some leadership folks, right? Because they won't be asking you programming questions, they won't be asking you SQL questions, they will ask these type of typical questions related to data domain understanding and business rules understanding. They can ask you, let's say we have a healthcare data, tell me what kind of matrices you can generate, right? And you will be completely blank, because in your data engineering job you have just created the pipelines. Okay, so I would suggest please focus on that one. Second thing is, when you go into the interviews, uh, your honesty plays a very important role as well, right? Honesty as in, uh, because if I take an example of typical tech giants, like in Amazon we have a bar raiser round, right? And whenever you will at least get an interview call from Amazon, what will happen, they will send you a list of 14 leadership principles as well, right? So they follow their leadership principles very strictly, and that is not with the Amazon. With other companies like Google has their own leadership principles, Facebook has their own leadership principles. And in the like last third fourth round, right, mostly when you will be interacting with the leadership folks or the hiring managers, they will judge you on these aspects, right? Whether you are a good team player, whether you are a good fit for the company or not. So how you should actually take these questions, or in order to answer these questions you have to be really honest. Whatever you have faced in your past, whatever challenges you faced in your different projects, bad experiences, good experiences, you need to convey it in the positive way. Okay, so these two things I would say can help you as a soft skills, right? In order to land in a good company.
Okay, great, Shashank. So what I can pick from your answer is like, see, not only technical skills matter, along with that, your what do you say, how you speak and your how the etiquettes that you build, all those things come into the picture. Make sure that along with the knowledge that you gain on the technical domains, you build your soft skills also, which might help you for either a, what do you say, change, or else either joining as a fresher also. I think that would be the one. And let's go to the next question. That would be, let's say, what kind of typical projects, or else whenever we say, right, data engineering related job. So what kind of things that once they enter to a company they will work on, or else like, is it completely hardcore thing that they would be doing, or else how it does work as per the company norms?
So in terms of the project, right, it will depend on the use cases as well, right? Use cases as when you will join a company, you will interact with the hiring manager as well, and you will get the good idea of what his team is actually working on. And I would even also say, right, when you are joining a company and you want to make your mind very strong that whether I should join this company or that company, very important round is the hiring manager round, where you can have a one-to-one talk with that manager, that what kind of tech stack you are using, what kind of use cases and projects you are working on, what will be the growth opportunities in your team, right? What kind of variety of projects I'll keep on getting. So these kind of questions you need to ask, right? But what I can answer, right? The typical kind of use cases we work as a data engineer. So mostly it would be like creating a batch pipeline and creating the real-time data pipelines. So based on my personal experience, what I can say, creating the batch pipeline is something which is comparatively easy. But when it comes to the real-time data pipelines, right, it comes with great challenges, right, and it also comes with great learning opportunities, because there are lots of edge cases to be solved, and there are typical challenges will be there, right? Managing the data, managing the states, and the fault tolerance, the resiliency, and many other challenging stuff will come into the picture. So these kind of two categories or two project categories you always need to look upon when you are working in a company. And whenever you see you are getting a repetitive kind of work, let's say multiple times you are just working on a batch pipeline, batch data, just have a chat with your manager that I'm not learning like typical things in the big data space. Can you staff me in different projects where I can get a chance to work on real-time data engineering projects? So that would be my suggestion.
Okay, great. I think that answers. And yeah, one more the follow-up question on that would be, let's say whoever who is a fresher or someone who are looking for a job related to that, right? So what is the role of the first entry level job on data engineering? Like, they will be typically dealing with the data engineering related topic itself, or else they would be starting on something else.
So typically, like as a complete fresher, right? So at least company will give you some time, right, for the ramp up phase, because you will be a complete fresher and you wouldn't have you wouldn't have got the idea about the large scale data sets, how to create the pipelines, what will be the typical challenges. So sometimes what will happen, they will staff you in a project where somebody like you will be following someone, right, closely. It can be your team lead, it can be a senior software, senior data engineer, right? So you will be following them and they will be mentoring you, and they will be giving you very small tasks, right? Let's say sometimes doing the automation, and sometimes just looking at the server whether file has arrived or not, and doing the data quality, data checks, these kind of stuffs, right? So this is something which is a kind of way or kind of thing very easy to start as well. Okay, so as a fresher you should expect these kind of tasks, and you should also respect these kind of tasks. You shouldn't think that I'm a fresher, I, let's say, I had a very good understanding of programming, something, right? Why they are giving me these kind of basic things? Because wherever you will go as a fresher, you need some mentorship, you need to understand the professionalism, you need to understand the whole development life cycle, because things don't happen in a very ad hoc way in the companies. There is a proper channel, proper mechanism for that, and we need to follow that process, and that's how companies actually work.
Okay, I think that answers, and yep, most of the viewers would want to know on that particular part itself. And yep, so going back to the next question. So that would be, as you have mentioned, right? So what are the typical roles and responsibilities and everything? So on that part itself, like the data engineer, whenever let's say an employee who is currently in the data engineer role, okay, what is his day-to-day life look like? Like what kind of challenges they might go with, or else what kind of responsibilities they need to deal with. So how a typical day or else that particular profile may look like.
Yeah, so typical role and responsibility, I think I explained it in the beginning as well, but the I think the responsibility will be the same most of the time, right? But as a growth opportunity, you can take the initiative most of the time, right, to look upon for those projects where you feel that you are learning new things, right? And as an typical day-to-day activities, so that can involve multiple things, right? I'll take an example of a project which is starting from a scratch. So early, on the earlier stage, there will be a discussion like that. Business team will interact with your manager. They will come up with their problem statement with the manager. Manager will try to understand it, what they are trying to do. And once the problem statement is finalized and everything is communicated to my manager, then he can actually look for the bandwidth, because I might be working on some different project as well. So first he will try to discuss with me that, Shashank, do you have some bandwidth or anything, because he knows everything about me, where I am working and where I'm getting utilized. So based on that, let's say he assigned that project to me. So there are multiple phases as well, right? It's not like directly we would have started working on the production, right? So we will start in the phases. The first phase is the development phase, obviously, where we work with the minimal sample data. We try to just do the follow-ups with the business teams. There will be the continuous calls with the business teams. We will also try to understand their problem statement, how they are generating the data, from where we can pick the data, and then we'll try to code the entire pipeline on a smaller cluster, which will be a dev environment, then doing the unit testing, integration testing, smoke testing, right? Functional testing. And once that part is ready, then we will be in a state to move into the things into the production. And it's not like that the day we have moved our entire code base to the production, our job is end. No, because we have created it, it's our responsibility as well to keep on monitoring it, because sometimes things might fail in between as well once you productionize the thing. So after, for some time, right, let's say 1 month, 2 month, 4 month of period, we need to provide the support as well for that particular project which we have done. So that's what, how, or you can say that's how the typical day-to-day activities we keep on working, and that's the overall role and job responsibility of a data engineer.
Okay, cool. I believe that answers all the questions that we have lined up for. And we are at the end of the podcast. Shashank, anything that you want to tell it to our viewers, any suggestions that they are looking for?
Okay, so first suggestion, right? My suggestion would be to prioritize your interest as well, and that's the common mistake I have seen from the folks, right? Be it the fresher, be it anyone. Don't just jump onto the data engineering because Shashank Mishra talked about it. No, because you need to figure out your capabilities and which job profile, which tech stack, what kind of domain actually excites you, right? Then you will be able to uh, map your interest, and then you will be able to grow in that field itself, right? Because if you are not enjoying something, you are just doing it forcefully for the sake of monthly salary. Then that's what I would suggest. And even I also took a move from the software engineering to data engineering, and I didn't take that move randomly. I also explored data science part. I also explored data analyst, business analyst roles, job responsibilities. But data engineering was something which I found it actually matches with my interest. I was having interest in programming. I was having interest in building large scale system, doing typical engineering related stuff. But I was not liking that front end development part, or completely back end development APIs and everything. So that's why I switched. But data engineering was something which was matching with my interest. That's why I opted. So same thing I would also suggest you. just take some time for the exploration and then decide even anything by your experience. And also don't underestimate yourself, because I have seen people who are working, let's say, with a lower package sometimes, or let's say in a service based company or any different job profile where they are not enjoying. They always like I have seen mostly, they underestimate themselves that they cannot crack the good tech companies, good product based companies, because they think the in cracking the interview part is really tough and they cannot prepare on that level. And whosoever has cracked that company, that guy is mind blowing, he knows everything. This is not the reality, right? I'm the same as you, right? We both are same. It's just it is the matter of the efforts, it is the matter of the motivation. You have to be self motivated, and you just need to take the inspirations from others as well, learn from their journeys and learn their positive points as well, like what they followed and how they landed into that place. And sometimes like that journey might not work for you, like the way they landed into that company, that might not work for you. So you need to figure out yourself according to your capabilities, that what best works for you. So that would be the end advice I would like to give you all.
Great, great, Shashank. That was a great answer. Shashank, as you mentioned, what do you say, SDE related job that you had done previously, right? Software development related. So just what do you say, a bulb on in my head that had lighted up. So people most of the time think about the pay that they would be receiving, right? In terms of SD, what is the better pay in the current generation, or else in the current trend, what they are able to see is SD roles in a reputed companies provide them a lot of good packages. And when it comes to data engineering related job, right, like does it works the same, or else it depends upon the individual company that they will be dealing with?
I would say there was a huge gap in this one, but that was 5 6 years ago, right? Because data engineering was just growing. But nowadays, this gap has been completely removed, right? Now you shouldn't worry about this part, that software engineers or data scientists or these kind of fancy profiles are getting paid more in comparison to the data engineers. No, we are even getting paid equally if we talk about the tech giants, because I have worked for that, right? And I know how much I was getting paid and how much salary I'm getting right now. So I am getting paid well. That's why I'm moving into that direction. Else I would have just stopped it in the middle if I was not enjoying my pay scale and I was not enjoying the growth in the data engineering space. So now there is no difference. So there is no need to worry about it. Lots of companies hiring aggressively, including the tech giants for data engineering. Just keep an eye on it, and you will land in a good job really soon.
Great. Thank you so much for clarification, Shashank. So, audience, viewers, just keep in your mind whatever that you are doing that should excite you, that should grab your interest, whatever that you are doing, and make sure that you enjoy your work. And along with that, focus yourself, do a research what exactly you want to do. Don't what do you say, blindly go ahead hearing me or hearing Shashank that either data engineering job will pay you a good amount, or else SD or software engineering will pay you a good amount. Do a research, whatever that interests you, you go in that particular platform. But make sure that if you are interested in these kind of jobs that you are looking for, you dedicate yourself in that and do proper what do you say, homework on that, and get yourself ready for that particular skills. So that would be the thing. And I think we are at the end. We have already crossed the timeline. Thank you so much, Shashank, again for sparing your time and speaking to our audience and giving your talks and knowledge, sharing your knowledge with the viewers also. Really appreciated on that part. And yep, that would be the thing. And thank you so much again, Shashank, for being here.
Thank you, Ajay, and thanks team for inviting me. It was a great session.
Great. And guys, you can check out Shashank in YouTube. He has his own channel. Shashank, if you want to name it, you can definitely do that.
So the channel name is E-Learning Bridge. You can just search it and you will find it.
definitely. So he does talks over there also, and he is one of our premium mentor in Verzeo, and we would be going ahead with similar kind of episodes in the future. Guys, you can stay tuned. There are a lot of good things that would be coming across, and that would be the thing. Shashank, I'll be taking it further, and yep, that's all. Thank you so much again.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ajay. Bye bye.
Bye bye. So, yep. Great, guys. I believe you had a great session. And so, at the end of the session, I would be providing you a just, what do you say, an attendance form that you can fill it up. And quickly, can you just let me know how was the session? Did you like it? Was it informative? Guys, you have your chat. You can just let me know. That would be helpful for me. Guys, can you hear me? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, great. So I'll be sharing the form right away. Guys, you can just fill this form for the attendance part, and there would be a participation certificate that would be rolled out to you. And one more thing that I would like to announce is there are a lot of webinars that we're going to be conducting in the future, in the coming days. Make sure that you are utilizing that. Bring your friends, whoever is interested, to go for it. And there are a lot of interesting things that would be coming into the picture, that might be on giveaways or else informative things that you are looking for. All the opportunities will be provided. Stay tuned for that, and hope you have understood properly and utilized it. Any questions that you want to ask me, or that any suggestions that you want to give? Okay, great. So I hope it was informative and it helped you in the way that you are looking for. So that's all from my end. You can subscribe to Verzeo, you can like our channel, you can stay tuned for similar kind of content in the future. And yep, that would be the thing for today. And we'll see you soon in the upcoming podcast or webinars that we would be conducting. And check your mails, or you can check our social media handles, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and you would be able to find all kind of contents that would be added over there. And this particular webinar is recorded, and it will be posted in your YouTube channel and in your LMS also. So yep, that would be the thing.
Thank you. Visit Verzeo.com. Subscribe to our
Thank
channel.
you all, guys.
to know more
Have a
about
great
it.
Sunday eve. And
Thank you.
we'll
Visit
see you soon.
Verzeo.com. Subscribe
That's all
to
from
our
my
channel
side. It's
to
Ajay
know more.
Bilal signing